Welcome, everybody, to the American Space Museum. I'm Mark Marquette. We're so glad you're with us today to stay curious and talk about one of my favorite subjects, and my co producer Marty Winkle as well, the Apollo moon landings. And here is a photograph by our friend Tom Usciak when Tom was just a college student at Millersville University in Millersville, Pennsylvania, near his hometown of Lancaster. What a thrill it had to been for you, Tom, to witness this beast taking off. We're going to talk about that in a moment when we talk about his pictures in some of Tom's reactions to this. He shot it on film, is something I recognize, of course, and he didn't know what the exposures you had to set because it was the only night launch of the mighty Saturn V rocket. And so we're going to talk about Apollo 17, of course, three astronauts on top of this rocket going to the moon for the last time, uh, commanded by Gene Cernan with Harrison Schmitt, his fellow moonwalker, and Ron Evans. And only um, Harrison Schmitt, Jack Schmitt, is alive to tell the story at age 88, just one of four moonwalkers left. The other two being, of course, Charlie Duke at 88, the youngest, and the oldest, Buzz Aldrin at 93. And then you've got um, David Scott, who I believe is 90 or 91. The only people that talk about walking on the moon. So, yeah, David Scott. So we're going to also feature some of the art of Apollo 17, talking about some of our favorite supporters of the American Space Museum and favorite artists. Those, of course, Chris Calle, Doug Forrest, and Ron Woods. So you're going to be entertained a little bit by some art and the art of photography a little bit with Tom Usciak and his friend Steve Nolte pulled this off together 51 years ago at a little after midnight. Let's get this rolling and talk about this here a little bit, Marty. Where is our iconic Apollo monuments, sunrise over it? A rare sight for me to take a sunrise, but I did in this instance. And the pylons you see there have names of workers that worked on the Apollo program, like Marty Winkle. They paid the museum $100 to have their names put on there, and what a tribute to this program. One of a kind still. And then on the side are the handprints of our Apollo astronauts in bronze. We'd like to thank this gentleman, Dr. Robert Bob Camerat. Dr. Camerat, you did an excellent job talking about his early days at Cape Canaveral, working in the unmanned programs there. And you want to go listen to this gentleman, you're going to hear a lot of stories about T.J. O'Malley, famous test conductor and manager, as well as his mentor, um, Page. George Page. Thank you, Marty. George Page. So, what a wonderful job by this 88-year-old man. And I'll go back there and watch this again myself. He just had some great stories to tell. And today we're going to talk about, like I said, Apollo 17 going to the moon. We're going to talk about in a minute our Saturday auction with some serious space swag you can own. And then look at some Apollo 17 artwork like this sketch by the infamous Paul Calle, who was such a genius with a pencil and did other things. One of the first 8 artists chosen by James Webb to go to Gordon Cooper's launch and give the perspective of a painter, a sketch artist, a watercolor. And Paul Calle's son, Chris Calle, is a friend of our museum. We'll be talking about both their artwork here in just a little bit. But we wanted to give a little shout out there today. Would have been the 91st birthday of this sweet man, Mr. Hugh Harris. Hugh, we miss you dearly. He passed away in February last year, just a few months after his 90th birthday. There's Mr. Jay Honeycutt, former center director and a big influencer, Johnson Space Center for many decades, and Mr. John Tribe. And it was great to talk to you, John, today and see you yesterday, Jay. So, but we miss Hugh a lot, and I just wanted to, on this 1-year anniversary of his 91st birthday, what a impact he made on our museum in a quick time, doing us a little over a year programs once a month and teaching me a lot about some of the old school journalism. So Hugh Harris, please rest in peace. Our auction, Saturday, beginning at noon. You can bid right now on any of these Robbins medals. The company Robbins made these medals. Woody Springs, the astronaut, bought them and is selling them for no less than $300. Also in the upper left-hand corner is a piece of STS-1's thermal protection tile. That little acrylic cube is sort of a must-have of any space collector. Marty, chime in there.
Yeah, Mark, I think we need to mention that the Robbins medals were only allowed to be bought by the astronauts.
Good. Yes. I don't know all the details, but I do know that part. They were offered to buy them. Having lunch with Jim Adamson and Kay Heyer, neither one of them had heard of the Robbins medals when I was telling them about that. And they both said, neither one was a collector or like coins much, they said, or collected coins. So it's just one of those things may have crossed us, and we said no. And Jim Adamson says, I may have bought one or two of them. They're somewhere. So these are very valuable to have space flown. The Apollo ones go for thousands of dollars, like the Apollo 13's worth over $10,000-$15,000, somewhere around there. How this works at our auction is I look at a couple other items here. And there's a beautiful 40 astronaut autographs or something like that. Marty, you do that a lot. Get things autographed with a lot of astronauts, as I have. They say it's going to go for $800 to $1,000. Here we're also selling an engine. All right. If you want 50 grand, you can buy this real 1960s Rocketdyne S3D engine, one of the most perfect kept from the era. It's all working model pieces, no knockoffs or plastic or anything like that. We've got photographs of various spacecraft that orbited the moon, like Lunar Orbiter. Those themselves, original photographs, can go for up to $200 to $300. And a piece of parachute from the flown Atlas V that took, not Ham, it was Enos. Enos orbited the Earth twice before John Glenn did. One of the things that Supreme Collector Ken Havicott puts in our auctions in there. Ken's a great supporter of our memorabilia shows ourselves. This is all online. Go to our website. You can find the link, or our Facebook, which is right up there on our first page. And you can, if you say you want here this S-band part off of a lunar module that Marty Winkle didn't work with this, but he worked on the lunar module. This is off of, Marty, did you read this? Is this an extra part or?
It was a part that was not installed. It's just an extra S-band antenna. And somehow Chuck got a hold of it. I don't know who it really belongs to.
Well, look, there's that S-band antenna on the, no. Oh, neither one's there, is it? Those are the two other antennas there. That's Apollo 17 photo there. And Marty, that's a good shot to show the Inconel, the Mylar, and the Kapton foil, isn't it? Want to point those out to our friends?
Okay, well, you get my arrow.
Anyway, we got the moon there. Marty did a great program you can go back and check out on what is Inconel.
That's Inconel right there. And that's aluminum right here. And you got Capcom, and right there looks like Mylar.
Yeah. Actually, the other strut there has the Mylar on it. The Mylar is yellowish gold, and the Kapton's orangish on there. But there's our Earth, taken by one of the astronauts of Apollo 17, their spaceship. And wow, Marty, just to look at that picture and say, this has got to get me off here and get me there. I mean, it is, you know what? It's why we haven't done it in 50 years, folks, because it took everybody, 500,000 people during the Apollo era to do it 6 times successfully. And we're waiting, but now they say it's going to be 2027 before an Artemis has a chance to land on the moon. We'll see. I want to go back just a second to the auction. You can bid now. Let's say I want to bid $500 on that Apollo Lunar Module S-band antenna. And that's all I want to go. And it's up to 200 already. So if someone, it goes in increments of $25. So if I'm willing to go 500, but it only goes to 25, I'll get it for 350. And though I was willing to go to 500, you could put that bid in now and watch it soar on noon when Chuck Jeffrey pounds the gavel to go through just 173 lots. That's only going to take him about 3 hours to do. Usually there's almost 400 lots in these auctions. So a great way to make someone's Christmas merry. It just blows me away to look at that picture of your spacecraft there, Marty. Just so unique. And there's the crew that was on it. Gene Cernan sitting down there in the lunar rover that they put 23 miles on. There's Harrison Jack Schmidt on the left and Ron Evans. Above there, Ron orbited the moon 75 times doing important science. And then he did a spacewalk to go get the film out of those cameras there, risking your life to get the data back. Today, of course, you just stick a thumb drive in a port and download that information up there like they do on the International Space Station. So Gino lived till about 5-6 years ago and was very active with the space program and promoting it. And Harrison Schmidt is still active in promoting the space program. He became a New Mexico senator for a couple terms, I think just 1 6-year term. And then he's promoting the Oxygen 3 that's on the moon, which can help sustain us, along with the hidden water in the lunar regolith. So Harrison Schmidt, 88. All right. And thinking hopefully today that he was on that big rocket, on this big rocket right here. Let's look at what Tom Usciak had to say and some of his memories about this. Oh, by the way, I do have a news flash here. I forgot to say at the beginning. For those of you, we do have a time for the Falcon Heavy to launch the X-37 space plane, and that is 8:14 p.m. Sunday night, Eastern Standard Time. Carlton Bailey, thank you for the heads up a few minutes ago to email me that on December 10th, Sunday, 8:14 p.m., will be the launch from historic pad 39A, where this launch was made 51 years ago of Apollo 17. Of course, the X-37B space plane we've talked about, a mini shuttle. The last one stayed up for over 700 days, over 2 years, and landed in November a year ago, and now they're putting it back up. There's 2 of them apparently. Each has flown 3 times for over a year each at a time. But so we'll see. 10-minute window, Marty, 8:14 p.m. Sunday night. So, boy, all these rocket launches are at night. There was one at 12:05 last night. I went to bed. Should get up for these, but I need my rest too. Okay, so anyway, so let's look at this launch. It was at 12:33 a.m., December 7th. However, it was scheduled to be around 9:50, right before 10 o'clock. When they say that 500,000 people observed the launch despite the early morning hour, no, they were all there when it got dark at 6, and for the 10 o'clock launch is when they thought it was going, because it was 2 hours and 40-minute delay by a countdown sequencer failure. The only such delay in the Apollo program caused by a hardware failure, Marty, was the last launch, 2 hours and 40 minutes to change a countdown sequencer. I wonder where that was at. You got any idea, Marty, the location of that? And though they were 2 hours and 40 minutes off the countdown, they made up for the time and got on their track by doing a longer burn here and there on the mid-course corrections going to the moon for 3 days. So they also had, but Tom Usciak said, and Steve Nolte, here's Steve Nolte's picture. We've had both of them on our program many times. Steve had a little more telephoto lens on his. Tom Usciak was working for well, he wasn't working. He was on the staff of the Millersville University College newspaper called The Snapper, Marty. Not because he was snapping pictures, because their mascot was a snapping turtle, Marty. Okay, that's a good one. And Tommy said that it was shirt sleeve a December evening. The Saturn V went in and out of the clouds. The thunderous roar wafting the crowd. He was at Apollo 15 and 16 launches during the day, and because the cloud cover, he said this was a lot louder. Marty, where was your location when you watched this?
I was outside Probably just, I'll say just south of the LCC.
Okay, Launch
Yeah.
Control Complex, all right, which is right beside the VAB. So, and
Just about as close as you can get.
yeah, so right, well, that's right beside the press site, right?
It's across the street.
Across the street from you, Tommy Usciak, and you guys didn't even know it. Isn't that cool? 51 years ago, I think it's cool. You've talked about it before. It's something you'll never forget, Marty. You've seen so many launches, but uh, and I think we're gonna do that later. I didn't throw the slide in. Yes, I did. We'll talk about that here in a second. There, that slide. There's Tom's picture on the left, and then Tom's picture on the right of the actually it's his brother's picture, Mark, of the Falcon Heavy last year, last November, and Bill Whiting, thank you for letting us watch that from your porch there. That was pretty cool, wasn't it, Marty? I wonder which did you can you think in your mind's eye which one lit the sky more?
I believe it was Apollo 17 did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was hearing that. I talked to John Tribe on the phone today, and he said it was so bright I had to look away from it. But it lingered on the pad longer, see, and that's something everybody notices from the rockets, like the shuttle, the solid rockets really get you off the pad quicker. And Tom Usciak even said it just took forever to get off the pad, like 10 seconds. Right?
I was just going to say that it takes usually between 11 to 13 seconds to clear the tower.
Wow. And that would, of course, allow for the light to build up and so forth. This mission broke several records, including the longest moon landing over 3 days, the longest total moonwalks, 22 hours total, each over 7 hours. Largest lunar sample collected, 243 pounds, and the longest time in lunar orbit, 75 orbits. So, very successful mission. Marty, did you know that they took with them 5 mice? Yeah, 5 mice, 4 male and 1 female. And Cernan dubbed them Fee, Fi, Fo, Fum, and Fooey, as if they could probably tell them apart. Wonder what that made the command module smell like. All right, that's some close quarters there with some mice. I guarantee it. Anyway, we're sucking in this part of history right now because you'll never see it again. A Saturn V rocket launched at night. It was the last Saturn V rocket to be launched with humans on it. The next to the last, of course, the last one launched Skylab, and Tom Usciak was there for that too. So, thank you guys for sharing your stories here with us as we talk to you all about what it was like 51 years ago when this took off and we headed to the moon for the last time. Now, by all counts, we're not going back to the moon until 2027 now, has been the revision by the Government Accounting Office, all right, not NASA, but the people spending the money said you don't have the money to do this program until at earliest 2027 to build everything and pay for it and put it in place. So this is going to be a while, I think, before we go back to the moon, at least our government. We might be seeing Chinese when we land there. We might be seeing Elon Musk setting up a lunch for us there when we get there. Who knows? It's a very fluid situation for sure. Well, let's segue into something that Marty, I had no idea I was going to get into this when I sat down to put our little program together today. But I am pleased to honor these 3 artists, Chris Calle, Doug Forrest, Ron Woods, for their support of the American Space Museum and their fabulous works of art that we don't show frequently enough sometimes. And Chris Calle is the son of the famous Paul Calle, in his own right, one of the premier space artists in the world. He lives in Hartford, Connecticut area. Up there, Doug Forrest lives in the Los Angeles area. He is in the business out there. I believe he does CG creations and very artistic world out there. But his passion is pen and pencil sketches of the Apollo era. But Marty has taken out his Endeavor nose of the Endeavor sketch I didn't put in here, and the astronauts just marvel at it for a few seconds before they sign their name to it. And Ron Woods, talked to Ronnie and both Doug today. Ron Woods, one of the really respected artists for his outside the box things he does in watercolor and acrylics. But Ron Woods was a spacesuit technician that put the Apollo astronauts in their spacesuits, including Apollo 11. And Chris Calle's dad, Paul, sketched Ron working in there in some very famous pictures of Buzz Aldrin, Neil Armstrong, and Mike Collins, the only artists allowed in that very sacred, if you would, flight room, spacesuit room. Ron, it's great talking to you today. You can see his pictures on Nova Space. Doug sells his on Apollo Arts, and Calle Space Art has a lot of father and son stuff on there. We hope that you can check that out as we feature their artwork here a little bit. There's Doug and Yoshiko, his beautiful wife, is on one of their trips here to the American Space Museum up there, and he was telling me he's proud that their sons got their first job at Disneyland. Okay, so I guess he can start paying for his own car insurance now, Doug. So that's one of the first things off your back, buddy. And of course, you see our women's gallery right behind him. They're very popular there. Here's Doug's work. All right. Nope, that's not a photograph. Okay, that is a pencil sketch that he did. I mess around with it a little bit. Vaguely understand how he did those searchlights on there, Marty, but very hard to put work on this type of black and put white on it and so forth. Love the reflection in the water too there, Doug. What a nice touch of one of the Apollo Saturn V rockets on the pad. And then there's a daytime shot that Doug took, he didn't take. It looks like a photograph in black and white, but no, that's a pencil sketch. The hours involved in the launch umbilical tower there, Marty, the LUT, right? Just think about that. I don't have the patience for that. But he did, and I believe he calls that Apollo 4 on there, and was an unmanned flight. And there is one of his great works of art, such a great rendition of Gino there. Apollo 17 Mission Commander Gene Cernan is proudly thumbs up there on this. This came from a photograph that a frogman took of this, and it's on Doug's website there, what the frogman's name is, but this is a rendition of a photograph, and he actually got Gene Cernan to sign it, and Gene loved it. Loved the face of Gene there, Ron Evans, obviously, and Harrison Schmidt there. So I said obviously Ron Evans because he's got a little bit of a bald spot like I do on top of his head there. But successful mission, thumbs up, and thumbs up to you, Doug Forrest, for your beautiful work that we love sharing from time to time. Like this gorgeous way to honor our fallen heroes of Apollo 1. Doug Forrest, excellent for you. 2 R's in that Forrest, by the way. And just what else do you want color in this black and white image but the American flag, the pride of our country, and how we rebounded from this terrific loss of life. And it also was a loss of the engineering. Engineers lost a lot of their innocence thinking they knew what was going on and didn't. So, of course, that's Gus Grissom, Ed White, and Roger Chaffee, honored by our friend Doug Forrest. Gives me chills, Doug. It really does. I get a little emotional over this. There is Mr. Paul Calle in front of a lunar module there in the 1960s era, when he had the privilege to be so many places, his sketch pad in his hand. This guy was a sketching machine, Marty, just like his son. Everywhere he went, he was sketching things. Very difficult to sketch people on the fly. I respect the courtroom drawers that can draw people, because when there's no photos allowed in there, But this is one of the best pros that ever was. Paul Calle was chosen as one of the first 8 artists of the newly established NASA art program in 1962. The purpose was to record history, space exploration through the eyes of artists, beginning with Gordon Cooper's launch in May 1963. Uh, Calle was the only artist, like I said, to be in the Apollo 11 uh, uh, suit room, and he did this stamp that we all know, the 10-cent stamp, first man on the moon. You can go to the Chris Calle's CalleSpaceArt.com and see sketch renditions of these that they did. Uh, let's see, where do I want to go with this? I had a reason to go with this right there. Yeah, okay, good. That's the stamp that you know from the dad. And there's son Chris with Ron Woods there at where are they at? Oh, they're at a Space Fest.
Shuttlefest.
Oh, that is Shuttle Fest. Yeah, okay. Um, and yeah, that's our Shuttle Fest there. There's two good friends there, two fabulous artists, Chris Calle on the left and Ron Woods on the right. And no, he doesn't play guitar like the Rolling Stones guitarist, but I think he said he met him one time because Ron Woods is also an artist, the rock and roll guitarist. This is some of Ronnie's work there. Again, Gene Cernan, the famous photograph, and he calls this Our Legacy. Apollo 17 Commander Gene Cernan proudly straightens the Stars and Stripes planted on the landing site of the Descartes. Not Descartes. They landed at Apollo 17 was I'm trying to think what Descartes was 16. Apollo 17 was the someone's going to correct us there, Marty. The final mission performed the most ambitious exploration of the surface at the Taurus Littrow area there. Taurus Littrow, Marty. And Ron Woods was around Gene Cernan a lot, and he said he treated me very well. Ronnie said I saw him at many of the Nova Space Fests, as well as other events, and he was always so nice and friendly and appreciated my artwork. This is a small blow-up. Ronnie's artwork you can see for sale at Nova Space there. So where I got these, he doesn't have his own website. He's so humble about this. But this is one of his famous pieces of work. Called Hanging Around After a Walk on the Moon. 9 Apollo spacesuits all hung in a row. One can imagine the glorious adventures they took part in. And a hand-printed thought from an unknown author accents the bottom of each print. It says, quote, I hope someday you stand on the moon, look through 250,000 miles of space and say to yourself, what a beautiful Earth out tonight, unquote. So that's one of Ronnie's well-known. And this one is called Spenny's Spaces. What can you find in a storage cabinet belonging to a longtime NASA spacesuit and EMU engineer? A little bit of everything. Prototype gloves, an old ILC boot, and that's just on this one shelf. A tribute to the longevity of William Spenny, Penny with an S on it, his career as a space shuttle spacesuit subsystem manager when he retired. So one of Ron Woods' colleagues there he honored on just his little storage cabinet for gloves to try on for different astronauts and so forth. So Ron, thank you. We appreciate you sharing your artwork with us, and always a pleasure to talk to you. He loves what we do, Marty, keeping the dream alive of the Apollo and shuttle era. Well, there's our buddy Chris Calle, who I suspect is out of town or out of the country. He's always out somewhere doing something. And here is one of his collages. He calls them montages. Okay, these are montages. One of his latest ones. He slaps together these is his latest creative niche to meld the future with the past. Artemis with the spacewalks, Neil Armstrong, Sally Ride, And he's probably got a little Easter egg of himself in there somewhere. I see it in the bottom left-hand corner there. But this is the art imitating son art, okay, or father's art, as this is Chris Calle's take on Gene Cernan in the driver's seat of a lunar rover. The pilot never got to drive it. All right, the three rovers uh, were never driven by Harrison Schmitt, uh, Charlie Duke, or Jim Irwin. They were all driven by their commanders there for some reason, but hard to make the dynamics he's got there of space with the Earth in the background. Good job there, Chris. And he loves this. Is called the Last Footprint on the Moon. His tribute there to Apollo 17. And again, hours spent on this lunar regolith, looking at things in there. And then they artists like Chris always have fun hiding a few things in there for family and friends in there. So what I wanted to kind of mash. Oh, here's what we helped Chris try to do was put Gino on a beer can. This is one of Chris's renditions of Gene Cernan on the Moon, a famous photograph snapped by Harrison Schmitt. We know it's Gene because of the red stripes on the suit. Okay, the commander had red stripes on the helmet, his arms, and his thighs. And Chris is always putting some wild, funky, cool, spacey background on some of his original works of art like this one. And we had a contest to put this on Two Roads Brewing Company. And I think he won the contest, but they chose some other image to put on the beer. But we all thanked you all for participating in that image right there. Again, one of Chris's masterpieces. Just love how he's got the dirt on the suit. It just looks like a photograph, doesn't it, folks? And that is another Chris Calle original, all right, which mimics this photo, all right, up there that a lot of artists have tried to mimic back and forth there. Hard to tell what's a photo and what's a rendition of it, isn't it, Marty, there? So, well, I wanted of note to talk about the father and son. There's Mr. Paul Calle and his son Chris there, taken probably about 12, 15 years ago. I think Mr. Calle's been gone about 12 years. Well, on July 20th, 1994, the United States issued two stamps to mark the 25th anniversary of the Apollo 11 footsteps on the moon. One was intended for a $9.99 denomination, the other 29 cents. The stamps were the third and the fourth in a sequence directly related to the first man-moon landing and issued over a span of 25 years. These four issues were linked more than their theme. Each was designed by an artist named Calle. All right. And the stamps were, of course, the 10-cent. Well, first was Paul Calle did this first double stamp, the Gemini 4 spacewalk by Ed White. So the first stamp, and there's Paul Calle's rendition of the Apollo 17 launch. All right, as I was building up to their stamps here, but here we've got their stamps coming up here. The father and the son each combined did one stamp different, and then they combined to do the 25th anniversary one. Chris has told me about this, that this is out of his dad's sketchbook. And this dad watched the launch of Apollo 17 from a station wagon on the side of the road. And the family was in the wagon there watching this. So this is a sketch of Paul Calle's famous stamp that we've all licked if you're over 50 years old, I'd say. 10-cent airmail at the time. 51 years later, I'm not sure what it is. 60 or 70 cents to send anywhere, but that's one of the sketches, and then it was turned into this. And these artists sketch something like this over and over and over until they can do it in their sleep and then do the final version. Both Paul Calle and his son Chris have a combined 50 American U.S. stamps, everything from Steinbeck to the moon landing in there, the author Steinbeck. Now this is Chris Calle's rendition of his stamp on the right, the 20th anniversary of the moon landing, and both Calle's will do a freehand sketch on a postal cover first day issue to enhance it, and then they'll sell those on their websites. I think that's so beautiful and so cool. And then 1989, the 20th anniversary, the son emulated his father by having the American stamp. And then on the $9.95 airmail and then the regular stamp, father and son combined to do this stamp together. So never really talked to Chris about that, but I will one day. And we sell their book, Celebrating Apollo 11, the artwork of Paul Calle. There is his Power to Go. Nope, I take that back. That's just Power. Or is it? I think that is the Atlas V or Saturn V. He did the Atlas almost like this, and then I see the fins on the right, so this is Power to Go. With a foreword by Andy Chalkin, famous book writer. And Chris Calle updated it of his dad's. We sell this in our museum for $20, and you can find it on your Amazon and other bookstores. And there's our friends, Chris Calle, Doug Forrest, and Ron Woods, just so you can see again where we can get their artwork. All right, and I really enjoyed putting that together for our friends. Well, I brag a lot about, Marty, that the photographs that you see, the iconic images from the moon missions, are really cropped a lot and enhanced a lot. And you can see that for yourself on a beautiful website that Flickr has put together called the Apollo Archives. I brag about it almost every moon landing. It's a great way to escape the holiday humdrum on your smart tablet. Go to Flickr, go to Apollo Archives, and you can see, as I did a screen grab here, Apollo 17, the magazines of their Hasselblad cameras. That's what the little packs were called that put on the back of the Hasselblad cameras that had the film in it. They're all numbered there, and you can see 150 views on one, or 166 photos on another, 163 on another, 157 on another one. All right. Apollo 11 only took 97 photos on the moon. All right. But sometimes but what the beauty is that you see every picture, and at the end of it, they have the traditional photography board there that you can get correct color combinations and stuff. And this has got the command module number on there, lunar module 12. What's the command module number, Marty, in the bottom there? It's got LM12 and command module in the gray. It's kind of in the gray writing in there. But this is so they can balance the prints when they make them to see how far off the emulsion of the color film is up at the top and so forth. So we would do this all the time, and that's on every leader of every film there. And sometimes the pictures are washed out, like this one was towards the beginning, so it got light flashed when it was put in, but you still got some of the moon in there. You've never seen that one on there. You see the edges and you see the gutters in between the frames sometimes. And they see a lot of unusual photographs that you've never seen before. And I'm going to feature some of these as we spend the next week talking about Apollo 17 and the last adventure on the moon. Marty, I like looking at that because I can imagine, not that you particularly know some of those things, but you were around the engineers that put those things in there. And look on the ground there, wherever humans go, we make a mess. Of course, they had to get these out of the quads. There's 4 sides to the lunar module, and those are called quads. And I guess that looks like that'd be quad 2, Marty. 2 or 3 in the back of it, right? And who knows what that stuff is? Do you have any comment on what's going on there?
No, that'd be quad 1 though, but no.
Okay. That wasn't his lane. He was an electrical engineer there. But look at, you've never seen that picture before, huh? Admit it there. And that's where we're going to show some pictures that you never see. There's the lunar module. They're actually a couple football fields away from it, right there. LM12, called Challenger, was the nickname of it. and in the Rocky Mountains of Taurus Littrow, right in the middle of the moon almost, little upper right. Yeah, you see the tracks there of the rover there, and little lens flare. That's what that bright ball of light is. And it's cantered a little bit. This was a hummocky hills where they thought a lot of volcanic activity was going to be seen. So we'll be talking about and sharing pictures of the Odyssey to the Moon by Apollo 17, Challenger and Columbia. No, what was the command module name? It was Challenger in America, I believe. It was the command module. Marty's going to look that up before I say goodbye to you all. This is the configuration of our moonship. I love showing the model of this to people under 30 years old and say, this is our moonship right here. And the guys can only get in the middle 2 sections of it there. And the only part that come back was the gumdrop looking part of it there. And just an incredible thing. Marty, which way was it oriented? Was the lunar module pointed towards the moon on the way there, or was it the other way around?
I call legs first.
Legs first, okay. Because they would look out the window maybe and see the moon. So, and the star chart, the star navigation, and so forth. Yes, Marty.
Plus, you got the engine from the command service module. Going pushing him towards the moon, if you will.
Yeah, right. Good there. Yeah. So there, Columbia, I think it's America, and Challenger are the two. I usually have something laying around here to put my hands on that. But we appreciate everybody watching today. Hope that you enjoyed looking at some space art as well as some real art of that photography there is not easy to do. And I'm sure Tom Usciak was very nervous souping that film in his lab, or maybe he took it to another lab. He owned labs in the past there. So, but we love talking about art. We love talking about Apollo. So, Marty, did you find it?
No.
All right, I'll correct myself on that later. Apollo 17 headed to the moon 51 years ago. And as we look at the Earthrise from the Moon by Mr. Chris Calle in his iconic picture there, all right, there's a lot of detail there. And once again, you can buy any of this artwork on their different websites. Just scroll it back to find it there. So. Okay, Marty, we appreciate your help today. All right, he's trying to effort the name of the Apollo command module. And it might be on this right here. This is an unusual looking thing here. Apollo. Oh, yeah, I'll find it here. We had Orion.
America.
Yep, America. Man, this old man's still got a good memory. So, America and Challenger on the moon, headed to the moon 51 years ago today. Thank you all for enjoying our program. Tomorrow we're going to probably do a tape session with Mr. Jay Honeycutt, who has done his part 2 of his career as a manager of the sims, the simulators in Johnson Space Center. So Jay Honeycutt in a tape program part 2 of his Apollo sim management career there at Johnson Space Center. So hope everybody, again, we're going to launch the secret mini space shuttle Sunday at 8:14 p.m. 10-minute window, 8:14 Eastern Standard Time. So we will be ready for that with bells on here on the Space Coast. Until then, I'm Mark Marquette saying, I can't wait to see you in our museum to bridge the space between us.